The massive chamber of the Galactic Council fell silent as the doors slid open. Ellen Rogers walked forward, her steps echoing across the polished floor. Behind her stood 4 other humans, all chosen for this historic moment. The chamber stretched upward for what seemed like miles, with viewing platforms holding representatives from over 300 alien species. Their forms varied wildly, from gaseous clouds contained in special suits to massive reptilian beings that required reinforced platforms. Ellen kept her eyes forward, fixed on the 7 high counselors who sat on elevated thrones at the chamber center. These beings represented the oldest and most powerful species in the known galaxy. Their judgment today would determine the fate of humanity. Ambassador Ellen Rogers, human representative to the stars. High Counselor Traz announced. Her voice boomed across the chamber without need for amplification. You stand before us today to petition for Earth membership in the Galactic Alliance. Ellen nodded slightly, her diplomatic training keeping her face neutral despite the tension twisting her stomach. Yes, High Counselor. Though I would say we stand before you as equals, not as petitioners. Murmur rippled through the chamber. Aliens of all descriptions leaned forward or activated translation devices to ensure they heard correctly. The human had claimed equality with species that had traveled the stars for millions of years. High Counselor Traz, a being with blue crystalline skin that caught the light in dazzling patterns, leaned forward. Bold words from a species barely 300 years into space travel. Ellen did not flinch. She had expected this reaction. The Council always tested new species looking for weakness or arrogance. Humanity had prepared for this moment for decades, since first contact with the Vril traders, who discovered Earth ships exploring the outer reaches of the solar system. We recognize our youth among the stars, Ellen said, her voice clear and strong. But time alone does not determine worth or potential. High Counselor Meal, a being composed of what appeared to be living shadow, spoke next. Its voice felt like cold water running down Ellen's spine. Humans have a documented history of violence against your own kind. How can we trust such a species among peaceful civilizations? Ellen had been warned about this question too. Earth history contained plenty of darkness. The Council research teams had studied human broadcasts, historical records, and cultural artifacts. They knew everything. Before Ellen could respond, another counselor interrupted. This one resembled an enormous insect, with compound eyes that reflected the chamber in thousands of tiny images. The records also show remarkable progress, Counselor Peck said. Most species take thousands of years to overcome such violence. Humans have made significant advances in mere centuries. Ellen nodded gratefully toward the insectoid counselor. This was unexpected. An ally among the High Council could change everything. Counselor Traz raised a crystalline hand for silence. The petition before us is not without precedent, she said. Other young species have joined our ranks. However, none have advanced as quickly as humans. This concerns many of our members. The chamber erupted in voices. Some shouted agreement while others buzzed, clicked, or flashed colors in their native communication methods. The message was clear. Humanity made many of them nervous. Ellen waited for the noise to subside. She glanced back at her team. Pat Miller, the military advisor, stood at attention, his face impassive. Next to him, Linda Taylor, the science officer, watched the proceedings with intense curiosity. Beyond them stood Jack Wong, the cultural ambassador, and Maria Rodriguez, the economic advisor. All had trained years for this moment. When silence returned, Ellen spoke again. We understand your concerns, she said. The speed of human advancement comes from our adaptability. We learn quickly from both success and failure. We build upon knowledge rather than discard it. This trait makes us valuable allies, not threats. A new voice spoke from the side of the chamber, where a massive being covered in thick fur rose from its seat. The humans bring nothing to our alliance called the alien. Its translator struggling with the deep rumbling tones. Their technology is primitive, their resources limited. Why should we accept them? Ellen turned to face this new challenger, Counselor Gruz of the Brack Imperium, She had studied all potential opposition. The BRAC controlled trade routes near Earth space and feared human competition. We bring innovation, Ellen replied. Humans solve problems differently than any species in this chamber. Our art, our music, our stories, our perspective. All offer new dimensions to galactic culture, but the counselor was not finished. The humans have already formed alliances with the Vril traders without council approval. This shows disrespect for our laws. A nervous murmur spread through the chamber. Ellen felt sweat on her palms but kept her expression confident. This accusation was serious, but also expected. The Vril operated at the edges of council space, often bending rules for profit. Their friendship with humans had raised eyebrows. Ellen stepped forward. We formed no formal alliance, she clarified. The Vril discovered us and opened communication, as is their right under council law. Article 7, Section 12 permits first contact protocols without prior council approval. The chamber went silent. Many delegates seemed surprised that a human knew their laws so precisely. Ellen had spent years studying council regulations, looking for any advantage. High Counselor Traz inclined her head slightly, acknowledging. The point Ambassador Rogers speaks correctly. She said, first contact does not require prior approval. Ellen pressed her advantage. We have prepared a complete briefing on human culture technology and potential contributions to the Alliance, she said. May I present it? The High Counselor nodded. A holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber, showing Earth in all its blue-green beauty. The presentation began cycling through human achievements, medical advances, sustainable energy solutions, artistic masterpieces, and cultural highlights as the images flowed. Ellen continued speaking. Humanity stands ready to join the galactic community. We offer our unique perspective, our determination, and our friendship. We ask only for the opportunity to prove our worth. Several council members leaned forward, clearly intrigued by what they saw. The tension in the room shifted from suspicion to curiosity, exactly as Ellen had hoped. Then suddenly the hologram flickered and changed. The image of Earth disappeared, replaced by something that made Ellen freeze. A classified military file labeled Project Phoenix. The secret weapons program Earth governments had hidden even from their own citizens. How did the Council obtain these files? Ellen felt her careful planning crumble. The chamber erupted in angry shouts and accusations. High Counselor Traz raised her hand again, and silence fell. Ambassador Rogers, she said, her voice cold. Would you care to explain these weapons your people are developing? Ellen felt the eyes of every being in the chamber. The four humans behind her stood rigid with shock. This was not in their preparation. The truth about Project Phoenix could doom humanity's chances. Ellen took a deep breath. She had seconds to decide, reveal everything, or attempt to deflect the wrong choice would condemn Earth to isolation or worse, council sanctions, before she could speak. Linda Taylor stepped forward. May I address the council, she asked. Ellen looked at her science officer in surprise. Linda had not been authorized to speak, but the damage was already done. High Counselor Traz nodded. Linda pointed to the hologram. What you see is not a weapons program, but a defense system, she said, her voice steady. Project Phoenix was developed after our astronomers detected the shroud moving toward our system. The chamber erupted again, this time in fear. The shroud was a cosmic phenomenon that devoured light and energy, leaving dead worlds in its wake. Several civilizations had been lost to it. Over millennia, the Council had no defense against it. Is this confirmed? Counselor Pex demanded. Linda nodded and transmitted data from her device. The hologram changed, showing stellar readings and projections. The shroud would reach Earth space within 50 years. Ellen watched as the council members reviewed the data. Their expressions changed from suspicion to concern. Humanity suddenly appeared in a new light, not as a potential threat, but as potential saviors. High Counselor Traz studied the projections. Your Phoenix project claims to repel the shroud, she said. How is this possible? The council has found no solution in thousands of years. Now it was Jack Wong's turn to step forward. The cultural ambassador activated another hologram showing The Phoenix device. Its principles based on human quantum theories suggested a way to disrupt the shroud at its boundaries. Our approach is different because we think differently. Jack explained simply, "We do not have your advanced technology, so we had to find another way." The council chamber remained silent as the implications settled. If humans had found a way to stop the shroud when the oldest species in the galaxy could not, what else might they accomplish? High Counselor Traz conferred quietly with the other council members. Then she addressed the chamber. "The human petition requires further consideration," she announced. "We will recess for one planetary rotation." As the chamber emptied, Ellen turned to her team. "That was close," she whispered. Linda nodded. "The truth was our only option. They would have discovered it eventually. This way we control the narrative." Ellen looked back at the departing council members. Some watched the humans with new interest, others with clear worry. Humanity had just changed the game. Whether they would be accepted remained uncertain, but they had done what humans always did, adapted and surprised. When the humans were alone in the antechamber, the antechamber doors parted with a soft hiss, revealing the immense council hall once again. Molly Harper took a deep breath, adjusting her formal diplomatic uniform. Her team stood behind her, 6 humans chosen for their expertise in various fields. They represented the best Earth had to offer. The massive chamber stretched before them, filled with representatives from across the galaxy. Their forms varied wildly, some floating in anti-gravity fields, others requiring special atmospheric chambers to survive. Molly stepped forward, her footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. The 7 high counselors watched from their elevated positions, their alien faces unreadable. The fate of humanity would be decided today. Ambassador Harper of Earth High. Counselor Vox announced, his multifaceted eyes gleaming in the chamber's light. "You returned to us seeking clarification on your species status." Molly stood tall, despite feeling small in the enormous space. "Yes, High Counselor. After our initial presentation yesterday, we wish to address the concerns raised by this body." A low murmur spread through the gathered representatives. Yesterday, Earth's delegation had shocked the Council by revealing the Phoenix Project, a human solution to the approaching shroud, phenomenon that had destroyed countless civilizations. Many Council members viewed this revelation with suspicion rather than relief. Counselor Dreen, a being composed of what appeared to be liquid mercury, contained in a transparent humanoid form, spoke. "The timing of your revelation is convenient, Ambassador. Some council members believe this is merely a ploy to gain membership." Molly had anticipated this accusation. The diplomatic team had spent the night preparing counter-arguments with respect. "Counselor," she replied, "we had planned to share the Phoenix Project after membership was established. We revealed it early only when confronted with your intelligence about its existence." High Counselor Vox leaned forward slightly. "How do we know this? Technology works. The shroud has resisted all attempts at containment for millions of years. Yet humans claim to have solved this problem in decades." Molly gestured to Dr. Alan Brooks, the lead scientist on her team. He stepped forward carrying a small device. "With your permission." High Counselor Allen said, "We can demonstrate a scaled model of the Phoenix system." The council members shifted in their seats. Some leaned forward with interest, others drew back in apparent concern. High Counselor Vox consulted briefly with the other counselors, then nodded. "Proceed, but know that any threatening action will result in immediate security." Response: Allen placed the device on the floor and activated it. A shimmering field appeared, hovering above the device. Within this field, a miniature representation of a star system formed. The tiny star glowed brightly, surrounded by planets. Then from the edge of the field, a darkness appeared, consuming light as it advanced toward the star. "This is a representation of the shroud phenomenon," Allen explained. "It absorbs all forms of energy, including light." The council chamber was completely silent now. All eyes fixed on the demonstration. The darkness continued to advance toward the star system. Then Allen pressed another control on the device. A series of small satellites appeared around the star system. As the darkness reached them, they activated. Each satellite emitted a field that joined with the others. When the shroud touched this network, something remarkable happened. The darkness seemed to fold in on itself. Then slowly it began to retreat. The barrier network disrupts the quantum structure of the shroud. Alan explained. We don't destroy it, we redirect it. Counselor Pex, the insectoid representative, clicked, his mandibles in what seemed to be astonishment. Your solution is elegant in its simplicity, he said. When completed, how large would this barrier need to be? Alan deactivated the demonstration. To protect Earth, the barrier would span our solar system, he answered. But a network to protect council space would be significantly larger, requiring cooperation between multiple species. Counselor Gruz, the massive furred representative who had opposed humanity the previous day, growled, This technology gives humans too much power. Any species controlling defense against the shroud could hold the council hostage. Molly stepped forward again. We have no intention of keeping this technology to ourselves, she said firmly. We offer the Phoenix Project as our contribution to the Alliance. A gift freely given, the chamber erupted in voices. Some representatives seemed moved by this offer. Others remained suspicious. Molly waited patiently for order to be restored. High Counselor Vox raised his hand, and silence fell. What guarantees do we have that humans will honor this promise, he asked. His many eyes focused intently on Molly. Molly nodded to Diane Foster, the legal expert on her team. Diane stepped forward and activated her own device. A holographic document appeared in the center of the chamber. We have prepared a legal framework, she explained. This document transfers all patents and research related to the Phoenix Project to Council control upon Earth's admission to the Alliance. It includes provisions for human scientists to continue development under Council oversight. The counselors studied the document, their expressions unreadable to human eyes. Molly felt tension building in her chest. Everything depended on this moment. Finally, High Counselor Vox spoke. This offer appears genuine, he said. However, there remains the question of human stability. Your species still engages in internal conflicts. Your governments are fragmented. How can the Council be assured that all human factions will honor any agreement? This was the moment Molly had prepared for. We understand your concerns, she said, and we have taken unprecedented steps to address them. She nodded to Rebecca Moore. The political representative Rebecca activated another hologram, showing the newly formed Earth Unified Government. For the first time in our history, Rebecca explained, all nations of Earth have agreed to a single governing body for extraterrestrial affairs, while individual countries maintain autonomy in local matters. All interactions with non-human species fall under this unified authority. The Council members conferred among themselves. Many seemed surprised by this development. Earth nations had been notoriously divided throughout human history. Counselor, Dreen the Mercury being shifted form slightly. What prompted this remarkable unity? He asked. Molly stepped forward again. 2 factors, she replied. First, contact with the Vril traders showed us that we needed to present a united front to the galaxy. Second, the discovery of the approaching shroud made it clear that survival depends on cooperation. Counselor Pex clicked thoughtfully. So fear drove you to unity. Molly shook her head. Not fear, she corrected hope. The hope that together we can accomplish more than we could alone. This applies not just to humans uniting with each other, but to humanity, joining the galactic community. The chamber grew quiet as her words settled. A representative from the upper levels rose to speak. This one resembled a tall avian being with iridescent feathers. The representative spoke in a melodic voice. I am Talia of the Corvus Confederation. We were once like humans, young, isolated, afraid. When the Council found us, we too were divided and warlike. The Council gave us a chance to prove ourselves. She turned to the High Counselors. Should we not extend the same opportunity to humans? Other representatives began to speak, some in support, others voicing concerns. The chamber filled with the sounds of hundreds of species debating humanity's fate. Molly stood firm, though her heart raced. This was democracy on a galactic scale. High Counselor Vox raised his hand for silence. The council will now vote on the human petition, he announced. Representatives, please, register your position. Holographic voting interfaces appeared before each representative. Molly watched as the votes began to register on the massive central display. The chamber fell silent as species after species made their choice. Alan leaned, close to Molly. It's going to be close, he whispered. She nodded, not trusting herself to speak. The votes continued to register. The display showed a nearly even split between acceptance and rejection, with a significant number still undecided. Then Counselor Gruz, the massive furred being who had opposed them, stood. I wish to address the chamber before the final votes are cast high. Counselor Vox nodded. Proceed. Counselor Gruz turned to face the gathered representatives. Yesterday I opposed the human petition, he rumbled, his voice deep and powerful. I believed humans were too dangerous, too unpredictable. His gaze shifted to Molly. I still believe this. Molly's heart sank. This influential counselor could sway the undecided votes. But Counselor Gruz continued. The galaxy is changing. The shroud approaches. Old answers no longer suffice. Perhaps we need the unpredictable. Perhaps we need the dangerous. He turned back to the representatives. I have changed my vote. I support the human petition. Molly struggled to keep her diplomatic composure as excitement surged through her. The remaining votes came in quickly. The final tally appeared on the display. Acceptance had won by a narrow margin. High Counselor Vox stood. The petition of Earth for membership in the Galactic Alliance is accepted, he announced. The humans will join us as probationary members for one standard cycle, after which their status will be reviewed. The chamber filled with the sounds of hundreds of species reacting, some with approval, others with concern. Molly turned to her team, their faces showing carefully controlled joy. They had done it. Earth was now part of something greater. The grand central spire of the Galactic Council headquarters pierced the perpetual twilight sky of Nexus Prime. Susan Dale stood at the observation window, her heart pounding as she watched the massive fleet of ships docking at the orbital platforms. Each vessel represented a different species, some resembling massive crystalline structures, others sleek metallic predators gliding through space. The emergency session had drawn representatives from all corners of the galaxy. Behind her Admiral, Frank Wilson paced nervously, his formal uniform adorned with the insignia of Earth Fleet Command. Beside him, Dr. Olivia Wright, the foremost xenobiologist from Luna University, reviewed data on her tablet. Their presence at this unprecedented gathering marked a significant shift in humanity's galactic standing. The doors at the far end of the chamber hissed open, a towering reptilian being entered, flanked by guards. Ambassador Susan Dale, High Counselor Zeth said, his scaled face unreadable. The full council awaits. Susan nodded, straightening her diplomatic uniform. We are ready, High Counselor, as they followed Zeth through the labyrinthine corridors of the council citadel. Frank leaned close. They say every species in the Alliance has been summoned, he whispered. Even the reclusive Voidborn have sent representatives. Susan kept her expression neutral, though the news surprised her. The Voidborn rarely participated in council affairs, preferring isolation in the outer reaches of the galaxy. Their presence confirmed the gravity of the situation. The group entered the Grand Council chamber. The circular room stretched hundreds of meters across its domed ceiling, displaying a perfect real-time map of the galaxy. Representatives from over 500 species filled the tiered seating. Many turned to stare as the humans entered. The chamber hummed with tension and whispered conversations in countless languages. Susan and her team were directed to a platform near the center. 7 massive thrones dominated the heart of the chamber, each occupied by a high counselor, the leaders of the oldest and most powerful civilizations in known space. Susan recognized Zeth, the reptilian, and beside him Ikara, the luminous energy being whose form rippled with colors beyond human perception. Welcome, representatives of Earth. High Counselor Ikara said, her voice resonating directly in Susan's mind. We thank you for responding to our urgent summons. Susan stepped forward, bowing slightly as Earth. Protocol dictated. The United Earth government is honored to attend, she replied, though we are concerned about the nature of this emergency session. High Counselor Zarl, a being resembling an enormous cephalopod with crystalline tentacles, spoke next, his words translated by the neural link all attendees received. You have been summoned because of the anomaly. He gestured upward, and the galactic display zoomed to focus on a region at the galaxy's edge. An area of space where stars simply ceased to exist, the shroud. Susan breathed, recognizing the advancing darkness that had been the subject of her briefing since Earth joined the Alliance. No, High Counselor Zeth corrected, something far worse. The darkness you call the shroud was merely a symptom. The chamber darkened and a new image appeared. A massive structure unlike anything Susan had ever seen. It appeared to be a construct of impossible geometry, parts of it seeming to exist in dimensions beyond normal space. What we are about to show you is classified at the highest level. Only full council members have been privy to this information until now. The gathered representatives murmured in surprise. Many species had been part of the Alliance for millennia, yet were hearing this for the first time. The structure you see was discovered 3 standard cycles ago by a myriad deep space expedition. Zeth continued. It exists at the edge of the shroud, growing larger as the shroud advances. We believe it is not merely a structure, but a gateway. Susan felt a chill run through her. A gateway, she repeated, to where High Counselor Akara shifted her luminous form, creating patterns of deep crimson. We do not know, but the energy signatures match nothing in our records. The gateway appears to be drawing power from the stars consumed by the shroud. Dr. Wright stepped forward without waiting for permission. A collective gasp rippled through the chamber at this breach of protocol, but Susan did not stop her. The council needed Olivia's expertise. This structure shows signs of quantum manipulation at levels beyond even precursor technology, Olivia said, studying the images. The configuration suggests it creates a bridge between dimensions, perhaps even universes. The council chamber erupted in voices. Some representatives stood shouting questions or demands, others huddled together in urgent conference. Susan noted the fear spreading through the chamber even among species known for their stoicism. High Counselor Zarl extended. A crystalline tentacle for silence, order, he demanded. We have not revealed everything. The chamber quieted, though tension remained palpable. 3 days ago, the gateway activated, Zarl continued. A projection appeared showing the impossible structure, pulsing with energy. Then something emerged. The image changed, showing a vessel unlike any Susan had seen. Its design defied conventional physics with segments that seemed to phase in and out of reality. Our attempts to communicate were met with silence. Then, without warning, it attacked the research station. The recording showed beams of energy unlike any known weapon cutting through the station's defenses as if they were nothing. The destruction was absolute. The station was equipped with our most advanced defensive systems, Zeth said gravely. They proved useless. 15 species lost representatives in that attack. A heavy silence fell over the chamber. Susan felt the weight of hundreds of eyes turning to the human delegation. Why, she wondered, were they being included in this revelation? Earth was the newest member of the Alliance, barely trusted with basic council technology. High Counselor Akara addressed her directly, Ambassador Dale. We have summoned Earth representatives for a specific reason. The emerging threat uses technology that bears striking similarities to theoretical models developed by your scientists. Susan blinked in surprise. Our scientists, she repeated. Admiral Wilson stepped forward, his military discipline evident in his rigid posture. With respect, High Counselor, he said, Earth has barely achieved interstellar travel. Our technology is centuries behind most council species. Zeth made a sound that might have been a laugh. Not your current technology. Admiral, he clarified. The Council maintains surveillance on all developing worlds. We have records of Earth's scientific development going back centuries. Among those records, we found theoretical papers from your 20th and 21st centuries. Specifically, the work of physicists named Einstein, Hawking, Jang, and Okonkwo. Dr. Wright gasped. Their dimensional gateway theories, she said. Those were abandoned as impractical. Precisely, Zarl said. But imagine those theories developed over thousands of years by a civilization far more advanced than any in our alliance. Susan struggled to process this information. Are you suggesting this threat is human? She asked carefully. No, Ambassador Ikara replied. Her color shifted to cool blues, suggesting caution. Rather, we believe they may be connected to humanity in some way. Perhaps an alternate evolutionary path, perhaps humans from another reality or timeline. The chamber erupted again. Representatives shouted, some accusing Earth of complicity, others demanding human exclusion from the alliance. Susan stood firm despite the onslaught. If the Council was right, this threat connected to humanity somehow. Understanding it could depend on human insight. High Counselor. Zeth roared for silence when order returned. He addressed the chamber. This is not an accusation against Earth, he stated firmly. The Alliance faces an existential threat. We need unity, not division. Susan stepped forward, her diplomatic training helping her maintain composure despite the revelations. Earth stands with the Alliance, she declared. Whatever this threat is, whatever its connection to humanity might be, we will help confront it. She turned to Dr. Wright. Then Admiral Wilson. Both nodded their agreement. What do you need from us, Dr. Wright? Astakara gestured, and a new hologram appeared showing complex equations and diagrams. These were recovered from the attack site. We believe they relate to the Gateway's operation. Our scientists cannot decipher them. But perhaps with your unique perspective, Olivia studied the equations, her eyes widening. These are based on human mathematical principles, she said, but evolved, developed in ways we never imagined. She looked up at the Council. With your permission, I'd like to assemble a team of Earth's best theoretical physicists. High Counselor Zarl extended a tentacle in agreement. We had hoped for such cooperation. Admiral Wilson stepped forward, addressing the military aspects. What about defense, he asked. The Myriad Station was destroyed. Despite advanced technology, how do we fight something like this? The defense of the Alliance falls to all members. Zeth replied. Earth Fleet will join a unified response force. We must prepare for further incursions. Susan watched as the chamber mood shifted from accusation to grim determination. The revelation of a threat beyond their understanding had temporarily united. The disparate species Earth is the newest member of this alliance. Susan said, her voice carrying across the chamber. But we bring a fresh perspective. Sometimes the youngest eyes see what older ones have missed. She looked around at the gathered representatives. We will stand with you. We will fight alongside you. And perhaps together we. The vast chamber of the Galactic Council war room buzzed with tense voices as representatives from 200 species argued over defensive strategies. Amy Bennett stood silently observing the chaos. Holographic displays showed the advancing shroud, now recognized as the harbinger of invasion. The mysterious gateway pulsed with increasing energy at its center. Earth forces had been integrated into the Allied fleet, but remained under constant suspicion. Amy straightened her diplomatic uniform and exchanged glances with General Paul Roberts, the highest-ranking human military officer present. They had 20 minutes before the High Council called for final battle plans. Yet the room remained divided, with multiple species shouting over each other, proposing contradictory strategies. This is getting us nowhere, Amy whispered. The Taraxians want a full frontal assault. The Myriad insist on containment. Neither will work against a force that can manipulate space-time. General Roberts nodded grimly. The Allied commanders refuse to listen to our tactical analysis. They see us as primitive newcomers. But I know what I've seen. These gateway entities don't fight like anything in our database. A sharp tone silenced the chamber. The 7 High Counselors entered, taking positions at the raised platform. Counselor Thrix, the crystalline entity, who led the defense committee, spoke first. Time grows short. The enemy fleet has disabled 3 more monitoring stations. Each emergence from the gateway brings larger forces. We must decide now. The room erupted again. voices demanding priority for their species' defense theories. Amy watched as the argument cycled through the same points. The oldest Alliance species, particularly the Myriad and Taraxians, dominated the discussion. Their civilizations had known peace for millennia. Their military doctrine remained untested against a truly advanced threat. Amy stepped forward, her movement drawing surprised looks from nearby representatives. "May I address?" The Council High Counselor Thrix turned crystalline facets reflecting light in patterns that indicated surprise. "The human wishes to speak. The floor is yours, Ambassador Bennett, though I remind you, Earth holds only probationary status." Amy moved to the central platform, activating the holographic controls. The display shifted, showing the gateway and surrounding space. "Thank you, Counselor," she said. "With respect, I believe we are approaching this threat incorrectly." A murmur ran through the gathered representatives. The Taraxian commander, a massive being with armored exoskeleton, rose from his seat. "What would humans know of interstellar warfare?" he demanded. "Your species barely understands basic full drives." Amy nodded, acknowledging the criticism. "You are correct. Commander, Earth forces cannot match the technological superiority of the Alliance fleet. Our weapons are less advanced, our ships fewer in number, but perhaps that gives us perspective. You lack." She adjusted the display, zooming in on recordings of the enemy vessels emerging from the gateway. "These entities do not fight according to any doctrine in the Allied military database. Their tactics seem chaotic, random even, but observe the pattern." The display showed multiple engagements, the enemy vessels moving in ways that defied conventional space combat, breaking formation, appearing vulnerable, then devastating Alliance ships that moved to engage. "This is not chaos," Amy continued. "This is calculated. The entities understand Alliance tactics. They anticipate your responses because those responses follow millennia of established doctrine. They know what you will do before you do it." High Counselor Ixil, the gaseous entity who rarely spoke in open council, drifted forward. "What are you suggesting, human?" Amy took a deep breath, understanding that her next words could either save the Alliance or cement humanity's reputation as dangerous primitives. "I believe we need to approach this conflict asymmetrically. We cannot match their technology, but we can be unpredictable." She nodded to General Roberts, who stepped forward, activating his own data tablet. "Earth military history contains countless examples of technologically superior forces defeated by unexpected tactics," he explained. "While the Alliance has enjoyed peace for thousands of years, humanity has unfortunately spent much of its history in conflict. We learned to adapt when outmatched." The display changed, showing historical Earth battles. Thermopylae, Agincourt the American, Revolution, guerrilla warfare throughout the ages. Roberts continued each scenario. In each case, the numerically or technologically superior force was defeated through unconventional approaches. The chamber had grown silent. The representatives studied the human historical records with a mixture of horror and fascination. "These tactics," Amy said, "are outside Alliance military doctrine. They would never be anticipated by an enemy that has studied your conventional approaches." Counselor Thrix shifted, his crystalline form. "You propose we adopt human warfare methods. Primitive, brutal approaches." Amy met his gaze. "Not primitive, Counselor, adaptive. We believe these entities understand conventional Alliance tactics better than you do. They anticipate your movements, your formations, your responses. This suggests they have either studied you for a very long time," or she paused, choosing her next words carefully, "or they come from a future or reality where they have fought you before." The chamber erupted, again many representatives shouting objections or demands for clarification. The High Counselors conferred among themselves, their private communication channels blocking outside listeners. Finally, Counselor Thrix raised a crystalline appendage for silence. "The human theory is concerning but merits consideration. What specific strategy do you propose?" Amy nodded to General Roberts, who expanded the holographic display showing the gateway and surrounding space. "Our analysis suggests a multi-layered approach," he said. "First, we abandon conventional fleet formations. Instead, we propose small strike teams using irregular movement patterns. He demonstrated with simulated ships moving in seemingly random trajectories. Second, we target the gateway itself, not the emerging forces. A small team of specialized ships could approach while the main fleet provides distraction. The myriad Admiral Kalesh rose, her translucent tentacles writhing in agitation. The gateway is heavily defended. Your small ships would be destroyed before they could approach. Amy stepped forward again. With respect, Admiral, they would expect a frontal assault by your largest vessels. They would not anticipate smaller, faster vessels using what we call evasive tactics. She gestured, and the simulation showed small craft moving unpredictably, darting between debris fields and using larger enemy ships as shields. This is madness, the Taraxian commander bellowed. Such disorganized movement. No military force could coordinate such. Chaos General Roberts smiled slightly. Humans specialize in controlled chaos, Commander. Our pilots train specifically for individualized response, not just formation flying. Each would have mission parameters, but freedom to adapt as circumstances change. The chamber filled with murmurs, some skeptical, others intrigued. High Counselor Ixil drifted closer. Their proposal has merit, he said in his whispering voice. Our conventional tactics have failed against 3 incursions. We have lost 72 capital ships and thousands of crew. What do we risk by trying another approach? Counselor Thrix turned his crystalline form toward Amy. What ships would you use for this gateway assault? Earth vessels lack the technology to approach the anomaly. Amy looked at General Roberts, who nodded. The general activated another display showing schematics for a vessel unlike any in the Earth fleet. We propose modifying 20 Alliance light cruisers with experimental human stealth technology, he explained. These modifications would mask energy signatures, making the vessels difficult to detect. The myriad Admiral drifted forward, tentacles extended. These modifications would require sharing classified Alliance technology with humans, she said. The Council has not authorized such exchanges. Amy met the Admiral's compound eyes. Respectfully, we are not asking for your technology, Admiral. We are offering ours. The stealth systems developed by Earth scientists use principles different from Alliance cloaking devices. They create false energy signatures rather than masking existing ones. The enemy may be familiar with your cloaking technology, but ours operates on different principles. The council chamber grew quiet as the implications settled. Several representatives leaned forward, studying the human schematics with new interest. Counselor Thrix conferred again with the other high counselors, then addressed the chamber. We will recess for 1 hour to consider this proposal. Tactical Command will review the human strategy and assess its viability. As representatives filed out of the chamber, many cast curious glances toward the human delegation. Amy felt the weight of their scrutiny, some with newfound respect, others with deepened suspicion. General Roberts joined her as they moved to a side chamber. Ambassador, he said quietly, keeping his voice from nearby translators. Do you think they will accept our proposal? Amy watched the retreating forms of the high counselors. They don't have much choice, she replied. 3 fleets destroyed using conventional tactics. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing repeatedly and expecting different results. The general nodded. I hope they see it that way. Because if they don't, Amy finished, then humanity will be blamed for withholding vital tactical information when the next fleet is destroyed. The Council might decide Earth is somehow complicit with the gateway entities. The emergency lights bathed the Grand Council chamber in pulsing red. Laura Winters strode through the massive doors, her diplomatic uniform torn and stained with smoke. Behind her followed Captain Ryan Davis, his military bearing unchanged despite the bandage across his forehead. The chamber, designed to hold representatives from hundreds of species, stood nearly empty. Only the 7 high counselors remained at the central dais. Their forms varied and alien. Each bore signs of the recent attack. Even the mighty Galactic Council headquarters had not escaped the onslaught. Ambassador Winters' High Counselor Vela acknowledged, her normally luminous form dimmed with exhaustion. We did not expect survivors from the gateway incursion. Laura stepped forward, stopping at the formal address line. You summoned me, Counselor. The crystalline High Counselor Krex shifted, creating patterns of light across the chamber walls. The human strategy succeeded where our conventional tactics failed, he said. Though, not without great cost. Laura nodded grimly. The modified vessels had managed to approach the gateway while the main fleet engaged using unpredictable human battle formations. The enemy, clearly confused by the chaotic approach, had failed to stop the strike team from placing quantum disruptors near the gateway structure. The resulting cascade had collapsed the dimensional tear, but not before a final massive vessel emerged. 17. Alliance worlds attacked. Captain Davis said, "Millions dead. The enemy battle station destroyed, but their last dreadnought remains unaccounted for." The Serpentine Counselor. Tharn uncoiled from her position, her scales reflecting the emergency lighting. "We did not bring you here to discuss casualties, human. The information recovered from the gateway before its collapse requires your insight." Laura exchanged glances with Captain Davis. The Council had been reluctant to share intelligence since the crisis began. This sudden openness suggested something. Significant. High Counselor Vela gestured. The chamber's holographic display activated, showing symbols and mathematical equations floating in three-dimensional space. These were transmitted from the enemy command station during the final moments before the gateway collapsed. Our linguistics division has partially translated the content. Laura stepped closer, studying the symbols. Many appeared to be variations of human mathematics, but evolved changed beyond easy recognition. Some scientific notation she recognized from Earth's past, though altered as if developed along a different path. Beside one cluster of equations, a symbol pulsed, a stylized emblem that made Laura freeze. Captain Davis swore softly beside her. "That cannot be right," Laura said. "The symbol, it's the Earth Defense Force insignia." Captain Davis finished. "Or something very similar." Counselor Krex shifted his crystalline structure. "What you see confirms our worst fears. The entities emerging from the gateway are human, or rather what humans might become." The chamber fell silent as the implications settled. Laura studied the floating data, struggling to comprehend. "In what way?" she asked carefully. The liquid metal form of Counselor Zell flowed forward. "Data recovered from destroyed enemy vessels suggest they originate from a parallel timeline, where humanity developed along a different path. After reviewing the information, we believe they come from a reality where Earth never joined the Galactic Alliance, where instead, humanity expanded unchecked, developing technologies forbidden by Council." Laura processed this information, the mathematical principles, the tactical approach. It explained why the enemy seemed to anticipate Alliance strategies. They had fought the Alliance, before perhaps many times in their reality. But why attack us, she asked. If they are human or some version of humanity, why cross dimensions to wage war? The holographic display changed, showing a star chart. The galaxy, but subtly different stars in slightly altered positions, some missing entirely, others glowing where empty space should be. Their reality is dying, Counselor Tharn said, her serpentine form coiling tighter. The gateway technology was developed as an escape. Their dimension suffers from accelerated entropy, a universe winding down faster than it should. Their Earth is gone. Their colonies failing. Captain Davis stepped forward, studying the display. So they come here looking for a new home. Not just a home, Counselor, Vela corrected. Her luminous form pulsed with dark energy patterns, resources, living space. A future. They cannot all come through. Such mass transfer between dimensions would destabilize both realities, so they send their military first, to conquer, to secure territory. For the survivors, Laura felt cold understanding wash over her. They would displace us, she said. The alternate humanity sees us as competitors for the same worlds, the same future. The High Counselors remained silent, confirming her assessment. Laura looked at the data again, noting details she had missed initially. Dates, coordinates, fleet movements. These readings, she said, pointing to a cluster of numbers. These suggest they expected Alliance forces to be elsewhere. Why were they surprised by Our defensive position, Counselor Zell flowed into a more humanoid shape. For the same reason, we were surprised by them. Dimensional transfer is imprecise. They arrived in our reality but 15 standard cycles later than their calculations predicted. Their intelligence on Alliance fleet positions was outdated. Laura exchanged looks with Captain Davis. That gives us an advantage, she said. They expected a different alliance, perhaps with different technology, different defensive capabilities. Captain, Davis nodded. The enemy flagship that escaped the gateway collapse. Where do you believe it went? Counselor Krex shifted his crystalline structure. The trajectory suggests it fled toward the Perseus arm, likely to establish a beachhead for further incursions. But how, Laura asked. The gateway is destroyed. The gateway we detected is destroyed. Counselor Vela corrected. The enemy, Dreadnought, carries components to construct another one, smaller but sufficient. Their goal will be to establish a new connection to their dimension, allowing reinforcements to arrive. Laura felt a chill run through her. The battle had been devastating, but it was only the beginning. An entire parallel humanity with advanced technology fighting for survival would not stop with one defeat. What does the council propose, she asked. The 7 counselors exchanged glances, communicating in ways humans could not perceive. Finally, Counselor Vela spoke. We face an unprecedented situation, Ambassador Winters. A threat from beyond our reality. One with intimate knowledge of Alliance capabilities and weaknesses. She paused, her luminous form pulsing slowly. Yet in our first encounter, only one strategy proved effective. Human strategy, Laura said. Understanding immediately. Precisely. Counselor Krex confirmed. The enemy anticipated conventional Alliance tactics, but they did not predict how this reality diverged from theirs. They did not expect Earth to be part of the Alliance. They did not expect human tactical doctrines to be employed by Alliance forces. Laura considered the implications. You want more human involvement in the defense. Counselor Tharn uncoiled, rising to her full impressive height. The Council has voted Ambassador Winters for the duration of this crisis. Earth will be granted full Alliance membership. Restrictions on technology sharing are lifted. Human tactical advisors will be assigned to all fleet commands. Laura struggled to maintain diplomatic composure. This represented everything Earth had sought since first contact. Immediate full membership. Access to advanced technology. A central role in Alliance affairs. But the cost. The deaths already suffered. The war just beginning. What do you need from us? She asked. Captain Davis will join the Unified Command as Senior Tactical Advisor. Counselor Krex said, Your best scientists will work with Alliance research teams to understand and counter the gateway technology. And you, Ambassador Vela continued, you will address the full council when it convenes in 6 hours. You must explain to 500 species why humans from another reality seek to destroy everything, why our survival depends on embracing the tactical doctrines of our newest and least advanced member. Laura nodded, understanding. The political challenge, the Alliance had existed for millennia. Many species viewed humans with suspicion. Now they must accept human leadership in a war against other humans. I will need all available data on the parallel Earth, she said. Everything. You recovered from the gateway. The holographic display changed, showing thousands of data points flowing into the system. The information is being transferred to your secure terminal, Counselor Zell said. Study it well, Ambassador. The future of humanities rests on your words. Hours later, Laura stood in her quarters reviewing the final details. Captain Davis now departed to join the military command center. She had studied everything. The records gleaned from the gateway. The divergence points between realities. In the parallel dimension, Earth had developed in isolation, expanding aggressively across the stars. When they finally encountered alien life, they came as conquerors, not petitioners. They had fought the Alliance before. Many times her terminal chimed. A message appeared on screen. The council chamber was ready. Representatives from 500 worlds waited to hear why they should trust one group of humans to save them from another. Laura straightened her uniform and touched the silver Earth insignia on her collar. In 6 hours she had to